Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining us from worldwide. I'm Sterling. It's great to have you back on the channel. This show is being recorded on Saturday, July 19th, 2025, and then posted to all media channels on Sunday, July 20th, 2025. As always, these shows are provided for entertainment purposes only. All the information I share with you comes real time through my guides, angels, extended spiritual counsel, ETs, famous people from history, so for entertainment purposes only. Also, if you just get a moment to like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell, all those things help the channel. We're making one big push over the next 30 days here to get to certification of the channel, which means 100,000 subscribers. There's literally about one third, 30% of all the viewers of this channel that are not subscribed yet. So if you find value in the channel, we ask one big request. Just take a moment out to subscribe to the channel. It's completely free. Also, if you'd like to join our Platinum membership on YouTube, we provide live streams on Fridays, answer a plethora of personal questions, and you go through hundreds of videos, access to hundreds of videos in the archive, including some instructional videos. The join button for the Platinum membership is on the front page of the YouTube channel, Sterling Psychic Medium, as well as the front page of our website, sterlingpsychicmedium.com. If you're new to the channel, we actually grab questions from the post section on our YouTube channel. And a lot of individuals I may be somewhat confused as to where to put questions. So every Monday, our office team puts out a request for questions for these Sunday shows. And that's in a post under the post section on the YouTube channel. So you actually see a post that says, please place your questions here for the next Sterling Psychic Medium show. Just a quick footnote. If you place questions in any other post on the YouTube channel, sometimes we have hot off the press announcements or other things, or you place questions buried inside of like comment sections and shows, or you email the office with questions, none of those will ever be seen for these shows. So the only place that questions are placed is under the post section or the post tab on our YouTube channel. Under the post, please place your questions here. I've been asked several times to clarify that. So hopefully that clears up any confusion. Just remember, questions placed anywhere else will never be seen for these shows. This week, we had over 700 questions posted. My wife, Linda, does go through them. I think right now we're down to a list of 82 questions that I'll go through with you in real time here, and happy to do so. So without any further delay, let's get going on today's show. Okay. Question 82 in the countdown. CBS recently announced the cancellation of The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. What was behind this decision, and what will be the long-term effects of this cancellation by CBS on the media? You know, first of all, I see several lawsuits coming forward from various unions and agencies in terms of this action taken. And because for entertainment purposes only, this almost comes across here like a bribe to the federal government or the FCC to allow the merger or the acquisition of Skydance Media of Paramount Global. And within Paramount Global is CBS, so that FCC approval is required. But this appears to be a situation that's going to really start to unravel, unfortunately, a lot of some of the free media and a lot of the late night talk shows. But I do see a number of lawsuits coming here. So it is going to change the landscape of late night television, not just the Late Show, but the other late night shows. Looks like they're on the block for cancellation as well. And it's going to start a lot of lawsuits and things going on here. So it's going to kind of reorient the whole landscape of free media and certainly around late night television. 81. The 45 administration has requested to see multiple voter data rolls from 10 states, saying they are looking into the 2024 election interference. They named Colorado as a state that allowed their voter machines to be serviced prior to the election. Is this an attempt to interfere with the vote recount likely to develop after New York Rockland County's case closes? You know, this is all part of like a false narrative that's being put out there by the government, and I see a lot of these. I see a lot more information being released here by the DOJ that's even going to kind of support, believe it or not, the election interference and the need for audits. And actually, it's going to point to anomalies in a number of election cycles here, not just 2024. Yeah, but you're going to, obviously across the board here. So I think the answer is here. I understand that they're asking to see the data rolls, but it's almost going to open up a can of worms to enlighten a lot of people and bring the truth out as to a lot of the election interference that's gone on. So it's kind of a little kind of backfire on the 45's administration's request. Okay. And also, I'm just getting from my team that it's also going to point to the fact that 45 was not the winner in both elections. So that's interesting. It's going to backfire. 80 in the countdown. Are MAGA group members separating from 45 over the Epstein files? And is this part of the S in the separation strategy pointed out by your guides and angels, referred to as the AIM strategy, AIMS? Yes. So for those, if you're new here, actually starting back in November of last year, my guides and angels point out what they call the AIM strategy in terms of what will be the replacement of 45. And that had to do with A is analysis, I is investigation, M is for movement and military, S being for separation. And what I've come to learn is that, this information comes through and it can have broader context. So, for example, S in separation also implies separation of the MAGA movement from the base and, a number of other things, including separation from the White House. So, yes, this is all part of, this whole the Epstein case, and what's going on right now is a tipping point for what's coming up here in terms of getting the truth out there. And S does stand for separation. It also implies the separation of MAGA groups separating from 45. 79. How much ongoing and long-term political damage for the GOP and 45 has he created by calling out those that want the Epstein files released and saying outright, only bad people want the files? Well, this is all part of the fracture and the crack coming up across MAGA, across the GOP, across the whole organization. So this is something that's coming up, and it is creating the impetus for a lot of separation among these groups. Okay, 78 in the countdown. The Buga sphere that was found in Buga, Colombia, seems to interact deeply with people on Earth. What is it? As covered in some prior shows, these are extraterrestrial placed surveillance devices on Earth. There are thousands on Earth right now. They're highly intelligent because they have a lot of AI technology. They're being controlled externally by a number of ET groups. These are surveillance devices just to monitor the health of the Earth. So they do have a level of intelligence on their own, and they're also highly controlled by external ET groups. They are. 77. In the news, I recently noticed Toyota may have invented a water-powered vehicle. Is this true? And will this be the new way that automobile industry will go? I get no, this is all pure fiction. Wherever this came from is like pure fiction, and it may have run around a lot of social media platforms or channels or even on Facebook, but this is all pure fantasy. My team's saying this has been an ongoing story for a long time. I think whoever asked the question say they recently noticed, but I'm picking up this may have gone like for years. People may have claimed this, and I'm getting there's no truth to this assertion. 76. Hi, Sterling and team. It seems weekly that 45 has a bruising on his hand, and now it appears he's using some type of makeup to conceal it. What's going on with 45's health, and will this be something reported to the public? Yeah, this has already kind of come out in the media, I think, just recently in terms of some vein problems. I forget the exact, I'm not a doctor, but the exact cause of like swelling in the ankles and valves in the legs not working well. So this is all part of an ongoing, I'm getting, not a doctor, but I'm just getting this is all part of a larger cardiac problem that he has. And a lot of this is going to be coming out to the public. Even, I think only the tip of the iceberg has been heard by the public in terms of what's going on with the health. But there's some dramatic health challenges coming up for him. I'm not going to tell you he's taken off the planet, but there's some dramatic health challenges coming up here for 45. It's a wider problem. 75, can we develop the ability to access our own Akashic records and past lives? Yes, in a sense. So it's your angels and guides, your angelic team that actually, they're the stewards. They accompany you to the Akashic records. It's like being tossed into, let's say a huge library with no ability to understand where anything is. Your guides and angels are the fastest stewards to helping with the Akashic records. When you have access to the Akashic records, it is the record of everything in the universe, past, present, and future, including your past lives. So yes, you can certainly see what went on in past lives and even in future lives coming up. However, you do have limited access in that you don't have access to everyone's Akashic records. So that I think that's kind of the one nuance there. But most people, if you're working directly with your angels and guides, they provide access to the Akashic records. Is the easiest way for everyone to do it. Okay. 74, hi Sterling. I keep having dreams that I'm back in college and that I forget to go to a class and risk not being able to graduate on time because I won't have enough credits. I graduated college in 2009. Why am I having these dreams? Is someone trying to tell me something? Your guides and angels are trying to push you forward in life. So you're hung up on the past. I get it. It's the stresses of, like, say, not being able to accomplish. But your guides and angels are actually pushing you forward, saying, like, really embrace the past, embrace your accomplishments, and now move forward. It's a function of like looking backwards. So don't be afraid to, let's say, take on new schools, new lines of thought, new online courses. It's actually pushing you forward, saying, give up the past, give up the fears of the past, and move forward with intention. 73, scientists are tracking a massive animal migration out of Yellowstone Park. Is the mega volcano in Yellowstone getting ready to blow? No relationship to the volcano getting ready to blow. No, I've covered this on a couple of other shows. But this is actually all part of a natural migration of these animals based on climate change effects, new hunting grounds, migration patterns. But this is all kind of a natural phenomenon I pick up here for my team. It's not something that is indicative of a major eruption coming. No. And in fact, I saw like no major eruption coming for even like hundreds to like 1,000 years in Yellowstone, meaning a major eruption that would cause widespread loss of life, sort of thing. So no, don't see any relationship between the animal migration here and what's going on with Yellowstone. 72, in Europe, many of us are deeply concerned about the US's current administration and rhetoric and policy towards the European Union. For example, actions taken to engage in a trade war and threats of taking over Greenland. Will the alliance and cooperation between the US and the EU improve after a change in leadership in the US? Yes, by the same time next year, like by 2026, there'll be much improved communications, alliances, friendship building, trade building by the same time next year. So they look for like middle of 2026. And no, the US will not take over Greenland. They just remind me to tell you. 71, I live in Ireland and it's lovely here most of the time, but something has changed since the pandemic, COVID. I live in the suburbs and I don't go into the city anymore. It doesn't feel safe. The energy is different. What is the short-term future of Ireland? I see there's going to be a very strong rebuilding of the economy around Ireland, like in a 4 to 5 year cycle here. It looks to me like Ireland has been affected by many things, even like the war in Ukraine, some overlaying effects, pandemic, a lot of loss of jobs. But it looks like it's going to start to gradually turn around here over a good 4 year period here, 4 to 5 year period here. So, certainly, I think whoever asked this question, you're going to really start to feel a change by 2028, which is roughly 3 years. But you're actually going to start to see these changes. So a lot of the effects that have created kind of these artifacts around Ireland are going to change. 70. Recently, I read in the news that certain universities, such as Harvard, have started to offer free online courses on subjects like civics, the Constitution, and dictatorships. Will the 2024 election of 45 be a turning point for how universities use online platforms as well as AI to finally channel it effectively to the uneducated rural masses in the US that cannot otherwise afford this type of an education? Yes, this is all part of a large process moving forward here in the world, not just with universities, but many other factions and segments around society that are going to help a lot of society push towards critical thinking skills. So I see a lot of this happening here. What a lot of the masses are lacking are critical thinking skills, and this is all coming around here. So the universities will play a big part in it. But I see that it's only like, believe it or not, like a minor part of a lot of other, say, companies and other groups and segments in society that are going to help push getting critical thinking skills and knowledge around to the masses. 69. In the news this week, paranormal researcher Dan Rivera died on July 14th, 2025, in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, while on tour with the infamous Raggedy Ann doll Annabelle. This doll is believed to be possessed by a young girl named Annabelle, responsible for causing psychic scratches in one person, taunting another who subsequently died in a motorcycle accident and causing several other motor vehicle accidents. What is going on with this doll and Dan Rivera's death? I get this is all folklore, so I understand the relationship of the weird occurrences around this Annabelle doll. I do get that whatever happened to his name, Dan Rivera. These are natural causes, so it wasn't caused by anything that was paranormal or of the spiritual realm or a death angel or anything of that nature. This is like natural causes. I think they're going to uncover all this, but a lot of folklore around, surrounding this doll. Remember, we all create our own reality. So, for example, if you believe something and that creates a lot of fear around you, a lot of times that can influence your actions. You may not be as careful or something. So, yeah, but I don't. This is all folklore surrounding this doll. I get it. I think there's a lot of history here where people want to associate that with paranormal activity and things where people died, but I'm getting it's a lot of folklore here, not based in real fact. 68. Can you please take a look into the future of the Nordic countries, Scandinavia, including Denmark, Norway, Sweden, Iceland, and Greenland? They just had a significant earthquakes in Greenland, and they are about to evacuate Iceland this evening because of 130 volcanic eruptions. I do see that. I mean, this is all part of like the ring of fire, the ring of volcanoes around the world. It kind of sweeps around like effects of dominoes. But there are like a number of 7-level earthquakes coming around this region. I don't see a lot of loss of life, and that's key. So a lot of warnings, but there's going to be a lot of volcanic activity, seismic activity in the 7 range here. Yeah, all around this area, related to the Scandinavian countries. I do see it. Yeah. It's going to be ongoing here for a couple of years until things settle down with a lot of the tectonic plates here on Earth. 67. Hello, Sterling. I live in South Africa and we are deeply worried about the tariffs. Entire small towns could shut down if they take effect, as every resident is involved in manufacturing things for export, particularly luxury German cars, wines, etc. Much of this product goes to the US. Will these tariffs take effect, or will 45 kick the can down the road again? There's a threat, if I recall, of like 30% tariffs in this area of the world. I see it going back and forth. So I see the threats there, and then the threats go away. The threats there, threats go away. I see it boomeranging many times. So it doesn't feel like actually the tariffs are going to take any real effect on this area of South Africa. And it also appears that it's not going to mean the loss of like hundreds of thousands of jobs. I don't know if that's even been reported. I'm getting something around that. That it looks like it's going to come out okay, is really the answer here. There's some level setting here back and forth with expectations, and I think it will affect some supply chains around this area, but I don't see massive destruction or the loss of hundred thousands or hundreds of thousands of jobs. So it's going to work out okay in the long run here. 66. Will the proposed Medicaid cuts result in tens of thousands of the disabled and elderly individuals being ousted and transferred from nursing homes in the U.S.? Well, yes, in the short term, there's going to be a lot of movement in this area of the elderly and people in nursing homes having to transition to other homes, other facilities. even, in-home care. I don't know what's going on with all this, but a lot of this is then going to start to settle back down as we get out into the mid 2026. So there's going to be a lot of movement, a lot of stress in this area. I do see my guides, angels are telling me everybody's going to be able to navigate through this. It can be a little difficult, but there's solutions coming up here. I'll call benevolent organizations, or, whether it's schools and churches or something here where a lot of individuals or groups step in to try to help fill the gaps. It won't be a perfect solution, but then it'll start to kind of mitigate and get better as we get into the middle of 2026. Okay. 65. The new budget bill includes billions of dollars for ICE to add thousands of new agents and build what appears to be the president's personal army. ICE has so far thwarted attempts at congressional oversight alongside new levels of hostility and cruelty directed at undocumented immigrants and U.S. citizens. Will this Gestapo-like force be allowed to operate unchecked, or will this be stopped? I see the courts getting involved like on a regional basis here around a lot of this. So like the local regional courts getting involved, much as what we saw like in Los Angeles and California, like them getting involved to kind of mitigate and stop a lot of the activity. So it's going to be here again, a big push pull, going back and forth. But I see a lot of the regional courts and state courts kind of monitoring this and slowing this down and getting a little more reasonableness into all this. So it looks like it will not go unchecked. So that's good. The good news is there that there's forces of good, if you will, that can help, mitigate a lot of this. And having a good effect on tapping down the efforts. 64, for the first time, I realized I have a birth angel. And while I've talked to my angels and guides, I've never asked for a sign until a few days ago when I got up the next morning. The first song I heard was Sarah McLachlan's song, Angel. Was that my birth angel, or is it one of my guides trying to leave me a sign? The answer is it's your collective team trying to get across to you. So it's very common when we talk out loud and we ask our angels and guides to please step forward and reveal any messages for us or show us they're around, you will get a sign. The signs can come in all forms, but a lot of times the signs will be something you notice. So if it's a feather dropping in the middle of the sidewalk where no feather could be, or it's a song coming on the radio you've been thinking about for days, and then all of a sudden it comes on, they will find ways to get your attention. That's what it's all about, to say, look, we're here. It's like ringing the bell. 63 in the countdown. Hi, Sterling and team. I had question on ascended masters, or I have questions on ascended masters. Is there a specific and greater purpose to every master who walked on the earth? How did each of them come to this level? Did they choose the ascended master life path millions of years ago in their first lifetime? Or is this a gradual progression they become chosen by the one source, the one force? The answer is it's an assigned life path very early on, much the way we're all star seeds. Everybody starts out in the star system. Some people start as humans. Some people start as extraterrestrials. But then there's also sorts of other individual elements there. So if you start out, you become an ascended master, you're committing to thousands of reincarnations in order to kind of learn the lessons, get to a stage where you can really help people or help humanity. So it's true. In terms of like individual specializations, all of them are capable of everything. That's almost standing in the oneness of the universe. So each of them is capable. And I will tell you this, that there's actually been hundreds of ascended masters down here on Earth. As we've only a few, for whatever reason, humanity is kind of locked onto and said that is the ascended master. But it's kind of a limitation of humanity that kind of noticed that there have actually been hundreds of ascended masters down here on Earth. So it's very interesting the way humanity kind of walks through life and puts more emphasis in certain areas when they're not really seeing the larger picture. 62, now that Republicans have voted to stop the Epstein files release, is this the end? Have they already been destroyed or tampered with documents in any way? Yeah, so this is going back and forth through the courts. I know there was something in the press saying that they're trying to release the grand jury testimony. Here's the thing. Some of the physical copies have been destroyed of the Epstein files, but I see that there's large numbers of digital copies, very high-end, high-quality digital copies in the hands of many billionaires worldwide. So a lot of these documents have not been destroyed. They're actually accessible. This is going to be an ongoing effort here as the information rolls out. But I think they were saying, has GOP Republicans, stop this? they will not be able to stop it here going forward. It's actually all going to start rolling out. Okay. I'm being reminded that oligarchs have copies of this too. It's interesting. So not just billionaire. Well, many oligarchs are billionaires, but my team just called out oligarchs as well. 61. What will be the outcome of Ghislaine Maxwell's appeal to the Supreme Court for a retrial? Will she ultimately release the files? If so, when? It does appear she's going to receive some sort of a backroom deal in order to cooperate with the government and various factions in the government. Uh, and it looks like a lot of the leaks of information are going to come out, much of it through her and her allies or colleagues in the world. Yeah, so there's going to be some sort of a deal coming up here. And I think what the question is, will the outcome of the appeal to the Supreme Court? I know I see a lot of volleying back and forth between, for some reason, I don't like the Supreme Court's going to be completely involved in this decision. It looks like some other areas of government are going to enable her get some sort of a deal. I think it's being challenged under, certain specificities with the Supreme Court, but I'm getting there's other courts going to be involved here in making that decision, and there will be a deal made. May not all be public, but there's going to be a deal made for her, eventual release and that information is going to come out. 60. Do you see a lot of Gen Z progressive getting into office and getting corporate money out of politics? I see many Gen Zs are more progressive or democratic in their voting, but I don't see a lot of them are going to hold like congressional offices. Some will, very like a small percentage. So my team is saying that it's going to be a greater preponderance of, let's say, Gen Z voting more democratically or independently or progressively. That's going to help, but not a lot of them holding office. So I guess in that sense, that they're voting on things that will get, where the question is all about getting corporate money out of politics. When things come up, they'll vote that direction, but say they won't necessarily hold congressional positions. Okay. That'll change, by the way, within about 5 years. 5 years out, I think you start seeing more Gen Z getting into congressional positions. So got to come a 5 year lag for Gen Z congressional positions. Okay. 59, hi Sterling. My son committed suicide this morning. What will happen to his soul? Will he be stuck in some sort of limbo? No, no one is ever stuck in limbo. So this is always a very delicate topic. I'm happy to delve into it here. We all have a guaranteed life path blueprint that we agree to when we come down here. All of our life paths are interconnected. So anything anyone does, say even in the case of suicide, there is a direct connection with everybody that's around that individual, family, friends, colleagues, doctors, people they don't even know, for example, that may hear a story. These are like ripples of waves that go out in the universe to help, to assist, to inform. No one is ever stuck. As soon as you cross, as soon as you make that crossing, you actually move from the human incarnation to now the full soul incarnation. You move right away into the love domain, into the heaven domain. Everybody goes through eventually a life review. Some life reviews can be more extensive if there's more lessons to learn, but no one's ever stuck. But it is part of a life path blueprint. And I've said many times, I talked to my team about this. No one ever gets off the planet if it's not your time. So, I have seen examples, for example, individuals have tried maybe 4 or 5 times to commit suicide and have not been able to successfully do it. Like there's always a paramedic 5 minutes away, it saves their life. So, suicide is very much part of a life path blueprint. And many times the effects it has on family are just as important as that passing. For example, many families might start foundations to help other individuals that are thinking about that. So these are important topics. I'm happy to delve into them. But no, whoever asked the question, your soul moves on in its entirety, its complete wholeness into the love domain, the love dimension, and not in limbo or stuck. No. 58. Will a lot of red states turn blue before the next presidential election, specifically Texas and Florida? A large number of states will turn blue, but I don't see, by and large, Texas and Florida turning blue. Maybe a little purple, right? So a little more seats swinging towards Democratic. But many of the red states will. But in this question here, they're asking about Texas and Florida, maybe more purple, but certainly not, fully blue, fully Democratic. My team does not see it. 57, what will be the outcome of the US-Canada trade wars a year from now? They're still going to be under some significant pressure and loss of confidence or faith, right, between the two entities here, US and Canada. But a lot of reconciliation, reconstruction is going to be going on a year from now. I think that was a question a year from now, as we get out into the middle of 2026, as I said. So there's going to be a lot of kind of, correction of all the damage that's been done politically and economically by current administration. But it'll be on the path to reconciliation and actually getting healed and getting restored. Everybody's going to realize kind of that the influences that created that havoc and chaos will be out, will not be part of government. 56, once the AIM strategy, and that's the AIMS strategy we talked about earlier, has fully taken place and 45 as well as others are out, will the big, beautiful, or BBB bill that was just passed be repealed or modified? Yes, here again. Now, here I see after the 2026 election cycle, there'll be a lot of things that will come in that will change what's in that BBB bill, if you will. So it'll start correcting, it'll start putting resources back for public broadcasting, NPR, Medicaid. You're going to see a lot of things starting to be restored and kind of corrected. So yeah, I do see that, including they're saying even like SNAP programs, food programs, that kind of thing. 55 in the countdown. There are various videos circulating regarding Jeffrey Epstein files implicating celebrities and well-known officials going to Epstein's private islands. Are these real? I don't know specifically which videos this person's referring to, but I can't comment directly, but there have been many famous, prominent people that have circulated with Jeffrey Epstein, for entertainment purposes only. Not going to go too deep into this topic, but I don't know specifically which videos this person's referring to, so I can't, let's say, comment on the videos directly, but I can tell you that, many prominent individuals, this all come out when the files are released, did in fact transact with Jeffrey Epstein. 54, many millennials and Gen Z members of the population are opting out of having children families due to financial constraints and concerns over the world future. Will this have any real impact relative to healing generational trauma and overpopulation? No direct relationship to healing generational trauma, but it is going to be a reset here over the next number of years for people to kind of get back into a healing space where they feel comfortable with the world and what's coming out. No effects on overpopulation in the long run. It's interesting, even though the world's population will increase, we're over, 8 billion people right now worldwide, under 400 million in the US, 320, 340 million, something like that. But overpopulation is not going to be a problem, even with, CRISPR gene editing coming on and people extending their lifelines by like 40 years on average. There'd be a lot of things to be done to kind of mitigate the problems with any kind of overpopulation. But they're talking about millennials and Gen Z here and their concerns. Within about 5 years, this concern regarding millennials, Gen Z, you'll see kind of a readoption, if you will, of getting kind of restarting families and getting more comfortable with the world's future. 53, when people choose not to have children, does that mean this is their last incarnation on Earth? No relationship to incarnation cycle whatsoever. Has everything to do with the life path blueprint that you committed to when you came down here. 52 in the countdown. Is it possible to have had a past life as an extraterrestrial like a Palladian in a star system? Yes, ET or Palladian, if you started off that way in the star system you're in. If you started off as a human, the answer is no. So remember, everybody started off in one of thousands of star systems, but not everybody started off on an extraterrestrial life path. Some start off on a human life path. So you're not going to go back to becoming, say, an extraterrestrial if you start off on the human life path. 51, Sterling, you've indicated you see Democrats will be successful in the next 2026 election cycle. Democrats seem to have a great deal of infighting, and longtime elected Democrats are resisting the rise of younger voices in the party. Will the Democrats find a way to successfully lead in a new way? Yes, there's a collective voice coming up here amongst Democrats. You kind of feel like a collective voice of everybody kind of more in unity of speaking the truth and what's going on. A lot of, this information coming out worldwide, what's happening in the government right now, what's in the BBB bill, what's happening with the Epstein files. So that's going to kind of move towards more of a collective voice. Then you're going to see some real leadership emerge here as we get out into the beginning of next year that will carry through the 2026 election. So it's all part of a turnabout, kind of restoring humanity to the a better underlying principle of critical thinking, what's good for humanity. So yeah, it's all part of the process here overall, and certainly the Democrats are part of all this, and it's going to come in kind of a new paradigm, if you will. 50. Hello, Sterling. As a Jewish person, I am highly concerned over the global rise in anti-Semitism. I do not feel safe, and it feels like the centuries-old rhetoric of blaming the Jewish people for everything is back in full force. Will the world ever be able to accept Israel's existence without blaming Jewish people for actions of the Israeli government? I see good progress in this area, but more like the year 2030. I know we're in 2025 now. It looks like a lot of things in the world start to settle down around the Middle East. It starts to get back to more rational behavior. Remember, a lot of these issues around the Middle East and around the Jewish people, Israeli state, going on for a long time. But for some reason, 2030, there's a tipping point coming up here. And then this is all part of overall the 3 decade reset, the year 2020 to 2050, my team talks about, where these kinds of problems, let's say regarding the Jewish people, won't be problems anymore. Extraterrestrials are going to bring in a much better understanding of how the universe was created, how it works. We're living in a microcosm of the universe right now. And so, the interesting thing is whenever I talk to the millions of entities on the other side, extraterrestrials and guides and angels, there is such a large, expansive universe out there that what we're existing in here is almost analogous if you take the head of a pin and you look at the head of a pin right now, wherever you stand. And if you imagine that is the entire, for example, Milky Way galaxy on the head of a pin, and then everything else around you in the expansive world is the rest of the universe, you can see we only see a fraction of what's really going on. So, in regards to this question, yes, big changes by 2030. There's a tipping point there. And then overall, as we get out to 2050, these will stop being major problems for humanity. 49. What is the triggering factor or reason behind extraterrestrial full disclosure occurring within the next 2 years? It's all part of the larger Earth plan that's been designed by people, by the one source, the one force, to kind of get humanity on track and kind of put all this into more of an advanced form. It's all part of a master plan. It's not something that's decided, a few years ago, look, we're all going to do this. This is actually, in this point in history, this was designed millions of years ago when this unveiling would occur. Now, remember, extraterrestrials have gone through full disclosure many times in history. You can see all the evidence in history, carvings on walls of caves back in Europe and around the pyramids. And, so this is not the first time extraterrestrials have tried and gone through full disclosure with humanity. It's coming again, but it's all part of the Earth's plan, okay? 48, since 45 seems to ignore the courts and the Constitution, will any federal court or Supreme Court try to use the penal system against any of his cabinet members? Uh, I don't see this happening in any large sense. It looks like there's going to be a lot of chaos. There are going to be people removed from offices. But the question is here is, like, will the Supreme Court try to use the penal system against cabinet members? It looks like it's like rats jumping a ship. Once all this blows up, and I've always seen 45 getting out and moving over to the Middle East. Once all this starts to collapse, it's just not going to be as much of the court systems involved. There'll be a number of court cases, don't get me wrong. But I think maybe people are thinking this is going to be widespread, thousands of cases. And it looks like by and large, a lot of it, people are going to escape, run away. Some people will die, just natural causes. So it's not quite going to have the effect, whoever asked this question here, in terms of, the other things are going to come out that are going to disorient and cause the current administration to collapse and fall apart. It's not going to be because of the penal system. 47, people have been seeing sea and land animals and insects around the world they haven't seen before. Where they come from? This is all part of natural evolution, and in some cases, the melting of major colossal icebergs around, various areas of the planet. So as microorganisms get released, as things melt, that's happening. But it is also part of a natural evolution, part of that. So my team's saying it's almost a split here, almost like half of it's natural evolution, another half is like microorganisms getting released as a resulting melting of major glaciers and icebergs. 46, will 45 make a Supreme Court appointment before he leaves office? I get he will try, but none will take place before he's out of office. 45 in the countdown. Hello, Sterling. Hello from Canada. Could you provide some additional information regarding how Canada will do since we continue to receive threats from 45? Our Prime Minister Mark Carney appears to cave to 45, which is a threat to everyone in Canada. We don't want to be the 51st state. I actually see Mark Carney, I've always seen this, remaining strong in the long run and really sticking up for Canada's rights and what's just. And it looks to me like, by and large, he's really going to stick up for Canada and not be bullied and going to do the right things here by Canada. So I'm not as worried. My team's saying it's really, I get a very good, strong feeling. Now, we don't do it's not a political show. Just tell you what my team's saying is that by and large, he's going to do the right things for Canada here, even though the big tariff situation is going on, threats back and forth. Again, this is like a seesaw, a lot of seesaw action, back and forth, push, pull, threats, no threats, tariffs, no tariffs. A lot of that's going to keep going on. But in regards to Mark Carney, looks like he's going to do what's required. 44. Why does the younger generation seem to be so apathetic in regards to keeping our democracy safe in the US? Because many of them have not experienced major hardships. So they've been isolated and insulated. Once you start experiencing some hardships, you start realizing, what do we have to do as a country, as a combined humanity, to take care of ourselves? So I get directly from my team is because they haven't really experienced any real hardships. 43, do you see universal basic income or UBI being implemented in the US between now or by the year 2050? I do see it implemented by the year 2035. That's roughly 10 years out. So yeah, it looks like it's coming, but it's a good 10 years out. My team's saying the year 2035. 42 in the countdown. What will happen to the Supreme Court justices who have ruled in favor of 45 in the Federalist Society, but not in accordance with the US Constitution? They'll all eventually be replaced by the year 2028, which is interesting. And some of this changes will happen as we get into 2026. So a lot of replacements here, retirement, getting out, or, forced retirement, a lot of shifting going on here, especially as we get out to 2028. So shift's going to be ongoing here, but they're asking what will happen, kind of them, a lot of them are going to be gone, replaced. 41, today news reports were released stating the Pentagon signed a $200 million deal with EM to run Grok, and this AI platform will be rolled out across federal agencies. How is that going to work out? I see this is going to be one of several AI platforms used by the federal government. And so what's interesting about that, when you kind of integrate several AI platforms, they can be used to cross-check each other, validate each other. So I don't see that. I think that there are some places where the Grok AI platform could go off the rails, but I see the government using at least 2 or 3 other AI platforms, major AI tools, to cross-check kind of all the AI analysis, data propagation, things going on here. 40, Sterling, you've mentioned a group taking over the government once 45 is removed. Will this group be in place until the next election cycle? If so, will this bring the country together as a whole? Yes, the group will be composed. I've talked about this a number of times on other shows of former presidents, congressional members, a lot of members even from society that have been instrumental, like major advisors to presidents. But there'll be like a larger group to kind of come in and be a cleanup group. But they'll actually be organizing and helping to run government. And yes, it'll help restore kind of balance in government And for by and large, they'll really be kind of they'll be running government until like the next major election cycle. Now, whether yeah, my team's just clarifying, in terms of the presidential cycle, you look at 2028. So that group's going to be around for a while trying to help govern. 39. When I was younger, I had a reoccurring dream. I was being pulled up by an unknown force. I was afraid, but fought it in my mind and returned to my body. What was going on? It happened a few times. This is a fear cropping up in your dreams, not a doctor, but it's a fear cropping up in your dreams related to your waking state. So it's something you're not facing that's like tapping you on the shoulder, so to speak, in your dream state. So this is a really good, this is like not an astral travel experience or anything of that nature. It's you now coming to grips. What's going on in the waking state that you're trying to deny? So it's interesting, you can never really hide from yourself, hide from your soul. Your soul knows, you are your soul, you are your complete DNA. By the way, people always talk about a higher self. Higher self is you. There's no extra higher self. It's almost like it's tapping into you. But it's something that not being acknowledged here in the waking state is what I'm getting from my team. 38, will there be a cure for adult and child scoliosis without surgery? Current surgeries don't cure scoliosis. Will they also discover what causes scoliosis? Yes, this is all on the 15-year horizon, 1-5 horizon for genetic engineering using CRISPR technology. Remember, there are thousands of companies experimenting, developing CRISPR technology. It's an area of science. But yes, in terms of what this person is asking about scoliosis, they'll be able to determine the genetic causes and then be able to turn it around and help cure it. But that I'm just being told that's kind of, let's say, there are a lot of developments on cancer happening within 10 years. This particular development is more like plus 5 years. So that puts you at the 15-year cycle. Okay. 37, a CIA agent and disclosure advocate John Ramirez said in 2017 that extraterrestrials would make themselves known in 2027. Is this true? If so, is the government preparing for this? So yeah, we've addressed full disclosure on this channel, actually going back 5-6 years now. They'll be around this time frame. And so yes, this is all part of the Earth's plan that was actually developed and designed millions of years ago that would come out around this time. 36, you recently mentioned during your hospital stay this year that you noticed a head nurse from the spiritual realm walking around the hallways. Can these nurses be of real help? Can they make a difference with a patient's operation or recovery? So yeah, I mean, these are all types of benevolent spirits that hang around environments they felt very comfortable in, where they helped out a lot in. So it's a great example. This head nurse that I saw walking around felt very responsible from the other side, not stuck. It's important. Spirits don't get stuck. But you have a lot of free will on the other side to come back where you think you can help. And yes, they can inspire doctors, they can inspire nurses, and that way they can help with healing. Absolutely. And, I think it was an interesting experience. We put everything on our life path. That hospital stay I had on my life path, obviously, no accidents. And I was kind of in the hallways in one hospital and then another location. But each time I was like in the hallways of hospitals, not just the hallways, but I saw a lot of spirits in the hallways from family members ready to receive people or doctors or nurses that had served there over the years and want to come back and help. So a lot of Grand Central Station action going on in the spiritual realm. So it's interesting to see, no matter where you go, you see those things. I remember the first time, this is going back decades, when I saw a lot of spiritual guides and angels walking around people. I actually walked into, just a side note, I walked into a bank, Bank of America, and there were about 12 people in line, but then there were about 50, 60 people hovering around them that were friends, guides, angels around all these people. So it's kind of interesting to see the 12 people in line, but then all the other people standing around them. So interesting experience. But yeah, it's typical. No matter what environment you're in, there's always an overlay of spiritual energy, entities around there that want to be around that environment, be around people. 35, will flying cars ever come into existence and be available to the masses? Yes, they've already started development. Many companies are already working on like drone, very similar transportation vehicles that look like drones. You're going to see mass transportation rolled out first in terms of flying cars, flying buses, flying limousines, flying taxis. And yes, within about 15 to 20 years, there actually will be a very large contingent of flying vehicles available to the masses that will actually be controlled by artificial intelligence systems. So all the navigation will be done by AI technology. You'll be able to get in the car, flying vehicle, specify a location, much the same way robotic taxis are working right now on Earth, on the ground. But they'll actually then navigate using thousands of vehicles on the air. They'll set the navigation pattern so there won't be any collisions. Yeah, it's all coming. 34, Texas Governor Greg Abbott has called a special legislative session beginning July 21st to address several pressing issues, including flood relief, redistricting, and the regulation of THC products. Lawmakers will also revisit unfinished business from the regular session. What will be the outcome? Texas is already right heavily gerrymandered, right? And so it looks like it's only going to get worse. It looks like a lot of what's being proposed here is going to make things worse in terms of being aligned. And that's probably why earlier my team was saying they did not see Texas becoming blue, maybe more purple. But yeah, it looks like kind of the gerrymandering is going to get even worse here as a result of this July 21st special session. 33, 45 plans to close and gut the Department of Education after the recent Supreme Court rulings. Will this go through or will he be stopped? This will go through, but by the middle of 2026, here again, you're going to see kind of a start of a turnaround. So more funds, more reestablishment of things coming back. It looks to me like they may, in fact, rebrand the Department of Education. So it may come back under some other name, only because it might make it easier to fund it, but have the same kind of results. Because I see kind of a rebranding of the Department of Education in some way. 32. Will the majority of people who support 45 ever realize their broad-based mistakes relative to society and become more remorseful in this lifetime? Yes, but approximately 10% of that MAGA base will never change to their dying day. That has a lot to do with, not being enlightened, lack of critical thinking skills. We talked about this earlier. 10% of the base will still hang on for dear life. But you'll see a good portion of that base start to shift back towards what makes sense for humanity. When resources start getting cut, no matter what political persuasion you're in, if you can't pay your mortgage, if you can't get health care, all these things really then start to be a reality check for everybody, no matter where you are in the political spectrum. 31, do you see a cure for ALS, that's amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, or ALS, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease, anytime soon? I do see here within about 12 years, within about 12 years, that's what, 2037, there's some sort of a breakthrough around ALS, again with genetic engineering. Remember, genetic engineering are now the new building blocks for everything that'll service humanity. They're saying it's roughly in about a dozen years here, there's going to be a breakthrough. And it's coming from outside the US. It's like coming from Europe, whatever, some studies or something going on in Europe here. And I'm seeing something about, I don't know, I'm not a doctor, but like understanding multi-stranded like RNA will help with DNA. I don't know what this is all about. So is RNA an acid that's in every cell in the body, something like that? I'm not a doctor. So there's something coming up here within a dozen years around this. I know that was something, no, Lou Gehrig, I was thinking about what Robin Williams passed away from. That was, I think, Lewy body dementia, I think it was called. Yeah, different. Okay. That's just a side note. I don't know why I was thinking about Robin Williams there for a second. 30, is Jeffrey Epstein still alive? What happened with the missing 3 minutes total from the prison video? No, I do not see that Jeffrey Epstein is alive. I read on this a long time ago, right around the time of his crossing. And what I saw was that he was taken out. So this is not by his own hand. I also saw that I'm going to tell you for entertainment purposes only. I saw something like him being highly sedated in order for them to get him out of the cell, and then he was taken out at a later time. A later time. I do not see him still alive on the planet. The missing minutes of video are the crucial evidence showing who was involved for entertainment purposes only. 29. When my grandmother passed away many years ago, I walked to view her and say goodbye. I touched her hand and immediately was rocked by a vision of the vastness of the universe. It was so strong, it took my breath away and weakened my knees, and my body buckled a bit. The family thought I was being overdramatic with her death. What happened to me? Even today, the thought of what happened, the vastness lingers. You tapped into the world that she was about to step into. So it's analogous almost to give you like an analogy, like putting your face into the surface of a pool, right? Let's say you have a large pool, and as soon as you put your face into the pool, you're overcome with that cold sensation of the water, and let's say you can see everything or see everything, the vastness of what's underneath. So you got a glimpse into where your grandmother was stepping into. It's that kind of a little bit of a vortex moving into the next dimension. Yeah, so that's a very spiritual experience. I think you should embrace it. And I completely congratulate you for being able to talk about it. Because remember, that's why we're all here, is to share these wonderful experiences that we all have. Okay, 28 in the countdown. Are there any extraterrestrials that are very similar or just like humans in appearance? No, not really, due to millions of years of evolution. Now, many people look at Pleiadians or tall Nordics and think they have similar body types. However, I don't see direct similarities with a lot of them to humanity. So, the closest looking extraterrestrials, the Nordics, tall Nordics, or Pleiadians, all the other extraterrestrial species like praying mantis and Arcturans and whatnot do not look anything like Homo sapiens sapiens or humanity. 27. When the 45 regimen comes to an end, do you see something like the Nuremberg trials taking place for all the crimes against humanity? No, I don't see anything like the trials that occurred. And what were the years for that? Was that like 1945 to 1949 or something? Crimes against humanity. I don't see that happening. No, that's going to be something that involved, I think, at that time, I think that involved a lot of different countries as well. So not just the U.S., Britain, France. No, I don't see any of that happening. Nothing of that nature will take place. 26. Will Ghislaine Maxwell be safe now that she has agreed to testify? Will she get to testify and expose the clients? Yes, we touched on this earlier. I eventually see she's going to be able to release the information. She'll be kept safe. There's a backroom deal going on here, and this is all part of the deconstruction of 45 and the administration. 25. Will ICE snatchings ramp up over the next 6 months and begin to detain everyday U.S. citizens who disagree with the current regime? Yes. However, many of the U.S. citizens will be like released right away. So there's going to be some tuffles here. Nobody going to prison per se. Let's say, because they're asking about U.S. citizens here. It looks like there'll be some some overextensions of authority of ICE, but then individuals get released very quickly because there's something about the courts getting involved and making sure that evaluations are made very, very quickly. 24. Does a soul always reincarnate as the same species? For example, once a Homo sapien sapien, always a Homo sapien sapien species, or can it move to other sentient life forms, such as one of the many ET races? So this is interesting. If you started out as a Homo sapien sapien humanity, you're not going back to extraterrestrial. But there are extraterrestrial species that have been able to translate into human form to accomplish certain things on Earth or other planets and then go back to extraterrestrial. So the answer is it has a lot to do with how you started out in one of the star systems. Okay. 23. Has 45 promised Aileen Cannon he would make her a Supreme Court justice? Will 45 ever make her a Supreme Court justice? I do see he promised her that she could become a Supreme Court justice. However, I do not see that ever taking place. 22, what do you see will happen to 45's assets in the U.S. after he departs for the Middle East, more specifically, Saudi Arabia? They'll all be seized due to very serious charges. Well, a lot of the assets will be seized. 21. What is the significance of birth order? Does the firstborn child have specific karmic ties? What about twins or triplets? So, no real significance to birth order. It has everything to do with life path blueprint. So, if there's specific things that you wanted to accomplish based on birth order, that's where you have a direct relationship. But by and large, it's nothing directly related to birth order. So, two twins, for example, twins could come down and each could have a very unique life path. And it really wouldn't matter whether one came in early or one came in later, but that'd be part of the design. Like I'm going down first, you're going down second. Now, there's some overlay here. If there's a medical procedure going on, such that a twin's life path was supposed to help or affect doctors helping them, there might be something there that connects with the life path of being born first or born second. But nothing really karmic, right? Nothing karmic related to your first, second, that kind of a thing. No. 20. Will we find something to help the bees in the world survive? We already have. Many areas of the world, they've already been conducting extensive research on bees and colonies, how to safeguard them, how to get rid of certain pesticides to keep them healthy. So actually, this is already taking place right now as we speak. Yeah. 19. For the past few years, I get intense chills very frequently. It happens often during conversations with people on random topics or when I daydream, which I do a great deal. Could this be a spiritual message I may be missing? So when you receive very strong cold chills by and large, now I'm not a doctor, so put aside any kind of medical reason, right? Some people have cold chills due to some medical reasons. Let's say you're perfectly healthy. When you have cold chills a lot of the time, talking to people, those are your guides and angels giving you a confirmation message. It's the most common way. So when you say anything that's of universal truth, you're going to feel a cold chill. Like some people might say, I really think I should be doing XYZ, and you got a huge cold chill. That's your guides and angels reinforcing that, pushing you forward. 18. Do people who pass on from this life hold on to grudges in the other dimension? No, grudges are part of the fear dimension, right? So remember, fear energies. So love and fear are the only two energies that drive everything in the universe. Grudges, jealousy, anger, hate, all those things exist in the fear dimension or the fear side. They do not exist in the love dimension, which is heaven. No. 17. EM's building the world's largest AI computer outside of Memphis, Tennessee. What are his intentions for the device, and how will this computer ultimately affect humanity? So here again, this could be one of several very large AI computer platforms are going to be deployed worldwide. A lot of what's going to happen with this AI platform is going to be used to support EM's tasks around the world. SpaceX, other things he's doing. But many companies are developing AI platforms, very large data centers, and they'll all be used kind of in orchestration with each other. So the question is, what are his intentions? Same intentions every company has or every group has with having large AI platform data centers, farms, is to utilize AI to help push humanity forward. Now, yes, there'll be some individuals trying to figure out ways, nefarious ways, they can somehow make themselves richer or get an edge up on another country. But remember, there's going to be a lot of competing AI data centers that are going to help keep a lot of this in check, okay? Remember, AI will be as ubiquitous as breathing air or water. It's coming as part of the human timetable, and it's coming as part of the Earth's plan. 16. Will Ghislaine Maxwell get out of her 20-year jail sentence now that 45 has denied Epstein's wrongdoings? No. I think you're saying, will Ghislaine Maxwell get out of her 20-year jail sentence? Yeah, there's some sort of a deal that's going on here. We talked about this earlier in the show. Won't involve the Supreme Court, some other major courts involved here, and then the information leaking out. But they're asking, let's go 20 cents. No. So I think actually we addressed this earlier in the show here, okay? Okay, 50 in the countdown. Can you please tell us if you see Mount Rainier from Washington State erupting in the near future? I see many rumblings around Mount Rainier, but no major eruptions. But it looks like movement of water tables or tectonic plates in the area, but I don't see any kind of a major eruption coming for Mount Rainier, or certainly one that would affect, hundreds or thousands of people. No. By the way, my team's saying probably not for hundreds of years to come before there's an eruption with Mount Rainier. 14, why are New York and Pennsylvania election state boards reluctant to do hand count verification audits of the 2024 election results for counties that appear to be manipulated during the election? Election Truth Alliance showed Pennsylvania the data. They said it wasn't valid and that all their elections are secure and safe. I see this is going to move forward a very small rollout. So this is kind of a very slow churn here as the information is going to be coming out. But I do see both these states eventually doing audits. I think that's about the question about New York and Pennsylvania being reluctant. This is a fight, ongoing fight back and forth. So it's a very slow rollout, but the truth will prevail as it starts to leak out here. And I do see a lot of these elections are going to start being audited based on results that prove in other states that there was election interference, that the voter rolls don't make any sense in terms of what the counts were. All this is coming out. The slow burn. 13, if we create and agree to our life path blueprint, why would we agree to the death of loved ones like our children and our pets? How could a life lesson be worth these significant losses? So this is exactly the way the Earth School operates. Not everything is necessarily fun and games. When we love something, when we intensely love something, sometimes we feel the greatest loss. It's the loss of that spiritual connection or that loss of that physical connection. These are all part of the learning lessons. Remember, there is no death, right? And sometimes that's part of the lesson that has to be learned here on earth, is that the soul is infinite. It is energy. There is no birth. There is no death. Continuum of life. So this is all part of what's referred to as the yin and the yang of the universe. This is how spiritual growth occurs for the soul. It doesn't occur by everybody just being 100% happy and satisfied, nothing ever happening ever while you're down here in the Earth School. The Earth School is about effectively going through experiences and learning lessons. This is part of it. 12, will GOP Senators Collins, Murkowski, and Jordan be voted out in the midterms? Yes, I see all of them will be voted out in the next election cycle. Okay, 11, the countdown. Please explain deja vu. When it happens, the experience is so vivid, it is hard to deny. So this takes place for a variety of reasons. Sometimes this can be what's called precognition. So you're tapped into something with your angels and guides where this is a precognitive experience. You don't realize you already experienced it. When you come up on it, you recognize it. The other major reason is that sometimes there's very minute time slips we have here. And so they can be down to nanoseconds, billions of a second, but you almost experience that before it happens. So it's either usually to a time slip or something precognitive, or they remind me, there's a third reason. It's something you already planned before you came down here. So it's like an important event that you said, when that event happens, make sure you ring the bell. So that's actually three fundamental reasons here why a deja vu experience can happen. I like that. The third one's important. If it could be around a very important experience, I'm just emphasizing here, it's good to know that you said, when this happens, make sure that I acknowledge that. And that's why it'll seem very familiar to you when it happens. 10, as a psychic medium, can you channel a message from a future version of someone, like, for example, 100 years from now? Yes, but that's not the most helpful source of information. The most helpful source of information are angels and guides and anything connected to the one source, the one force, which also connects to the Akashic records. So even if you're channeling someone that's 100 years in the future, humanity can be somewhat fallible. So I don't find that that's actually the best way to kind of get information in the future. You can do it, but it's better off just to deal with your angels and guides, deal with the Akashic records, deal with the one source, the one force. That's the most direct source of information, which is non-fallible. 9. Hello, Sterling and team. I am hearing strange theories of a large number of soulless entities that took human bodies versus the ones with actual souls, like the computer players in a video game that help move along the story of our lives, like half the cars that we see in traffic are being driven by these inanimate entities. Is this really a thing? No, no truth to any of these assertions that there are non-living, soulless individuals on Earth walking around to help move along our life story. No, a lot of entities in the spiritual domain, but this person is asking about actual human beings. Let's say soulless people driving cars, helping move you along the freeway in your life. No. 8, will there ever be safer medications or treatments for statins, cholesterol lowering medications, or better treatments for calcified arteries? Actually, by 2035, that's 10 years out. So there's actually some good development, scientific work being done. By the year 2035, you'll see the first medications reach the market, they're telling me. Not a doctor. 7, hello, Sterling. While using ChatGPT, I analyzed some numbers. Nearly 24% of the US population receives Medicaid benefits. This includes long-term care facilities and rehabilitation facilities. I have a hospital school for children very close to me. The children require 24 by 7 health care all year long. I see nursing homes, hospitals, and rehabilitation facilities closing. Healthcare staff will lose their jobs. And what about all of the patients? Will 45 just dump family and friends out onto the streets? Well, yeah, it's true. Like 1 in 5 Americans receive some form of Medicaid or help, right? This is going to be rather difficult. I think we talked about this earlier in the show. In 2025, in the beginning of 2026, and they'll start to turn around. So the answer is 45 administration going to follow through with this? Yes. Look, I understand a large part of the bigger cuts are happening, or 2026 when that rolls out in terms of the BBB bill, but there's ramifications coming up here short term. And that is because a lot of these facilities have to plan if they're not going to get the funds. So it's going to be rather difficult. But again, I see benevolent individuals, billionaires, people coming in to help use stopgap measures. So it's true. This is going to be a rocky period, a roller coaster period, but I do see there are going to be some workarounds here. This is where humanity really starts to come together in its best sense. 6, it is being reported that Gettysburg area is haunted by many fallen Civil War soldiers. Is this true? And why haven't these souls transitioned to heaven after so many years have passed since their death? So, no truth to the assertion that these soldiers are stuck. Remember, you're not stuck in any location when you get to the other side. It's free will, but they come back because they're a benevolent energy. They want to remind people of some of the wrongs, things have been done with civilians and humanity. They're not stuck. They come around more for messaging, to remember, to give people some experience, something that's tangential that they can feel to their lives. So that's a lot of people go there, they feel that energy, they feel the stress, the strain, the trauma, what took place there. But these spirits are actually coming back to help, not stuck there. 5, what are orbs? I've seen many small ones, but only through my camera lens. Are they spirits, messengers, or just energy? Could they be our guides? Can we communicate with them? More or less, yes to all the above. So orbs are elements of energy from the other side. In many cases, they can be non-fully formed apparitions. So if a spirit is fully formed, you can see it as an apparition, certainly if you have a clairvoyant ability. Now, orbs represent many things. They could be animals, guides, angels, elementals. Orbs are a functional, energetic element, and you can see them with cameras because many times you can see them in the infrared spectrum, right? The human eye is not sensitive to the infrared spectrum, but many mobile cameras, iPhones, digital cameras are sensitive to the infrared spectrum. That's why you can see them. Also, by the way, as a footnote, good way to see extraterrestrials and UFOs, UAPs, because many times they may be cloaked, but in the infrared spectrum, you can actually see them. By the way, I'm just being reminded you can always communicate with orbs. So if you see an orb, ask, who is this? Is this my animal? Is this my dog Lassie that I lost? Is that you, Grandma? You actually communicate with them, but you may have to use a camera in order to kind of see what they're doing. 4 in the countdown. Do you see the Department of Education getting dismantled? I think we referred to this earlier, but yeah, I do see it getting dismantled, revamped, renamed. So it's going to kind of be reborn under kind of a different name and new funding, but as we get out into 2026. And then the last 3 questions here, I always take notes before I start these shows. So we have number 3, number 2, and number 1. Number 3, do your extraterrestrial friends have anything they want to share? Do not fear what you do not know or understand. The world is being guided right now for the highest good. We are here now, have a great understanding of the future of the world, and will ensure everyone gets through all of this safely. Number 2, what do you see coming up next week? New peace talks initiated for many areas of the world, driven by several countries, including the US, Israel, Qatar, Ukraine, and even Russia, eventually making some significant progress, the starting of significant progress here. New major airline incidents created by mechanical problems in South Asia and the Middle East without a significant loss of life. So some new mechanical-oriented problems with major airlines. Large tectonic plate shifts in the Indian Ocean around the west coast of Australia, creating some tsunami warnings, but no major loss of life. That's a good thing. It looks like there'll be some warning systems. New information releases on Jeffrey Epstein case that further erodes the MAGA base, creating a tipping point here, really for the future and the demise of the 45 administration. And 2 45 administration individuals on the chopping block, and it appears to be Pam Bondi and Kash Patel. Number 1 in the countdown. Do you have anything your guides want to share? Truth in all aspects of the world is one of the most important qualities we can all practice in life. This means standing in what you know as your truth as it relates to the world and even situations like our human and spiritual families. When you stand in your truth, you stand in one of the greatest forces of the world. On that note, that concludes the show being recorded today on Saturday, July 19, 2025, and will be posted to all media channels on Sunday, July 20th, 2025. As always, if you want to join our Platinum YouTube streaming group and video archive group, the join button is on the front page of the YouTube channel, Sterling Psychic Medium, as well as our website, sterlingpsychicmedium.com. Again, take a moment to subscribe. Again, good 30% of all the viewers are not subscribed. We want to get to certification, 100,000 subscribers, if at all possible, in the next 30 days. There is a manifestation for you. Next 30 days, we will get to 100,000 subscribers with everybody's help. So on that note, I'm going to send out a lot of goodwill and tremendous love to you and your families. Take care. I will see you all again very soon.